Alright, I am back with a Dragon Age The Veilguard video. Certainly outside of my usual coverage here, but I got a code. I played it for 65 hours in the past about week and a half here. They give us 2 weeks, but my TV was broken for 4 days and I had it on PS5. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. Reviews are coming in. I think it's got about an 84 on Metacritic on PS5 and PC. I gave it an 8.5, so I guess I was aligned with the discourse here so far. I could have been pushed to a 9, honestly. I just didn't really like the ending as much as I wanted to, so that sort of left me with a less good note. Hi, Evie. She wants to be in the video. It's... I need to say something up front that I said in my review where I don't like Dragon Age. I do not like the original trilogy very much. I'm a huge Mass Effect fan. Mass Effect remains, one of my favorite series of all time. Dragon Age, I very much bounced off of. The first one was just not my speed at all. I like the second one a bit more. It was a lot shorter. I think I beat it. Probably. I don't, it was 13 years ago and it wasn't memorable enough for me to remember more than, a couple characters. I tried to play Inquisition like many people. I got kind of lost and stuck in the hinterlands because you're there forever. And I'm like, I don't like this. So I stopped. And that was an enormous game that I did not feel like devoting, 60, 80, 100 hours into. So even that won Game of the Year, I think, back then, which was interesting. So I was like, okay, well, am I going to like this anymore? And it turns out, yes. They have certainly, I think, stripped things down a little bit. And this is sort of like the anti-Baldur's Gate, where that's the super technical, crazily involved, multi-plot line, all of this, the most detail on detail on detail. Whereas this is fundamentally an arcadey kind of combat thing now. I'll go into that more in a bit. And then just sort of BioWare's really, really big focus on party and getting to know your teammates, so much so that I would say that is the vast majority of the game is companion-based things and companion quests specific to their own storylines. And I think it all comes together and works really well for the most part. I won't go into story spoilers here. Just the general setup is Solus is trying to rip open the veil after being an asshole in the last game. He's a Elven Loki. He's the god of lies or something. Again, I don't know all the lore here. We stop him, but bad things happen. 2 bad elf gods get out, and the whole story is about killing them and trying to, save the world because the blight is spreading everywhere and armies are being raised, and it's not very many good things. And of course, you are tasked with assembling a team. You begin with Harding, who is in the last game, right? She's an dwarven scout girl. At least I know that. Dwarven scout. And then Nev, who's a ice sorceress, are your earliest team members. Varric is there, but Varric can't fight. There's a whole thing about that later. And after that, you sort of just begin collecting various team members because we need a monster slayer and a dragon fighter and a elf technician or whatever for solving these different problems, and you collect this team. I was worried that it was just going to be okay, collect the team, run into the final boss once we have the team assembled. It's not that. That is very much just the beginning. That's maybe the first third of the game, and then from there it's a lot of fully team-based stuff. When I say the focus here is on the companions, it is relentlessly on the companions. In a Mass Effect game, you might have a storyline that's we talked to, so-and-so, Garrus or whatever, about his issue with his past or whatever. We do a hangout where we go, and shoot the shit. And then we have this big mission for Garrus where we got to solve his problem. And then you do that for each team member and make them loyal or whatever. The whole loyalty quest thing exists here, except these quest lines are super long. They are multiple missions, lots of little hangouts, sometimes to the point of this is too much. You teleport somewhere, you walk 5 feet, and you have a very brief conversation. You're okay, it's good for character development, but sometimes it's a bit much. The there's a lot of conversations you also just have sort of internally around your home base, which is called the lighthouse, and everyone has their own little house they hang out in, but like the characters interact with each other. Like there's a lot of diversity in terms of like how you're getting to know your teammates, but like every character has this sort of in-depth quest line with multiple phases. And, there's usually like a choice you make during this to, affect how things go forward for them from there. But it is fundamentally a loyalty quest. It's just like, I don't know, 60 to 70% of the game, given how many, I think you have what, 6 companions, I think. And then each of these has a very long quest attached to them. So that kind of ends up being the majority of the quests. The kind of side quests you get within the maps are pretty minimal. Like there's not that many. And then the main storyline quest is obviously there's big quests, but those are like longer individual quests, whereas just the sheer volume of companion quests is significant. And that, I think, for most BioWare fans, that's kind of what they're looking for, because this has always been the core of BioWare games. So I think a lot of people will appreciate that and certainly form different relationships and attachments with people. I had a trouble picking a romantic options because I wasn't really feeling the team in that way. I did pick one because obviously I wanted to see how it would pan out with that system. Didn't really love how that went down. I if I could go back, I would probably pick someone else. And this is a game you can play more than once because there are some pretty significant decisions that you can tell will change the game, pretty heavily on another run through. Which maybe I'll do that someday, but like that was a lot of time. I'm not just gonna race back into it. So there's some flexibility there. One thing I said in my review is like, you as Rook, which I think Rook's a very good character. It is very hard to take a custom player created character and make them all that compelling. I don't think this happens too often. My biggest example of this is the best, player created voiced character. One of them ever, I think, is V from Cyberpunk. I'm certainly not going to put Rook at that level, but Rook feels like a fully fleshed out character rather than just, some sort of empty entity to be filled completely by the other teammates. You can't like be evil. Like it's not that type of game. It's like at worst you're making hard choices where like, so-and-so person or city or whatever may have to be like sacrificed, but you're never evil. Like you can have like the tough guy option where it's like this symbol, but it's just like, hey guys, let's get moving. It's like not, you're I wouldn't even call you an asshole. You're just like kind of brusque. So that is good and bad. I feel like they played it a little safe with like the feel goodedness of all this. It's a little, not to say there's no like danger or whatever with, people's fates or anything. It's just, it's a little, I wish there was a little bit more of an edge to it, but this does seem like a game kind of aimed at a younger crowd. It is M rated, but that's mostly swearing. Like the violence isn't really that violent. At least in my playthrough, there was not sex in the, not really. No, it's not in the Mass Effect sense. I think that may change with different romantic options, but that did not happen with me. Maybe I did something wrong, but it did not pan out for me. In terms of gameplay, I was not really fully on board with the level structure first. It seemed very, very linear, but the more you play, the more you realize these zones are really big. They're not open world zones. Like it is a lot of, hallways and ladders and things, but like they are really sprawling. And the further out you get, the more you will find lots and lots of different secrets. There's something like 140 secret chests in the game, and that is the main way you will, quote, farm loot, where you will get all these different weapon and armor options, both for you and your teammates through these chests. The way you upgrade your gear is you find duplicates, essentially. So every time you dupe a piece of gear, so it goes from common to green and then to blue and purple and legendary. But it's not just stats. You will unlock a new ability of that armor or weapon every time you level it up. This is the way you sort of assemble your build over time in addition to your skill points. They are really, really flexible in terms of how you can build your character and spend your skill points, because you could respec anytime. You can respec, within your class, you can respec anytime. You can't just totally switch from like rogue to mage or rogue to knight or whatever it's called. I was a rogue, in case you can't tell. And you can also respec your companion abilities frequently, pretty much to match your own style and like with your favorite companions or whatever. I did end up like quote leveling all my characters up in terms of like their bond with me or whatever to 9 or 10, which is almost max. Well, 10 is max, so 8, 9, or 10 for pretty much all of them. I tried to shift them around. My favorites ended up being the Ice Mage and the Necromancer guy, who I really, he might be my favorite character, the Necromancer guy. I thought they did a really good job with his personality and storyline. And just in terms of like how they could combo with my abilities, and comboing is a big thing here. You need to do like a primer, this isn't the newest thing in the world, but like it's like a primer detonator system, and things that are not playing into that are like CC moves or they're just straight damage moves. It's sort of how you want to play, but I ended up like specking into a lot of necrosis, which is poison. I eventually unlocked there's unique items too. So I unlocked a unique item that like always made me have this thing called necrotic blades, which just is permanent poison blades, which normally you can only activate under certain circumstances. Spec'd into charged up attacks, so like a charged up light attack and a charged up heavy attack. And then I had so many skill points, I ended up going into archery, where another unique allowed me to slow time anytime I aim the bow. Very, very helpful, and get some points into headshots and whatever, and you will do a lot of damage. By the end, I was getting like stupidly overpowered, where I played on normal. I mean, yeah, I could up the difficulty, but like, again, I've spent 65 hours in this game. Like, I don't need to just make every combat encounter take twice as long. So maybe in another playthrough I'd do that, but whatever. Combat itself, again, it's very arcadey. It's arenas full of enemies. There's not that much enemy diversity, and these encounters kind of get repetitive by the end, but I did enjoy combat for at least the middle, like 30 hours of the game, 30, 40 hours. Once you get enough skill points for it to be interesting, but before it starts to feel too repetitive and you're too overpowered, I really did like it a lot. I think it's going to be a significant departure from normal Dragon Age, from what I know. You can pause the game and queue up moves and like a strategy or whatever, but like it's like, okay, put this primer on, put this detonator on, or like heal me and then buff me with enhanced weapons or something. It's pretty basic stuff. Like, this is not what I would call tactical combat in the least, which I like. This is the kind of combat I like. And famously, I did not play more than like 20 hours of Baldur's Gate just because I could not get behind the turn-based combat. I know Baldur's Gate is an incredible game. I just know that type of combat was not for me. This type of combat is for me, even if I know this is not a better game than Baldur's Gate. So I'm curious what people will make of this. I think it just comes together as a really cohesive whole. If the main goal of these BioWare games is to, create compelling characters and a solid storyline, like even not knowing the lore of this, like some of the reveals they did, I thought were really cool in terms of the scope of the universe. It's no Mass Effect. I think BioWare might not be super thrilled with like an 84 Metascore, given that it used to be like 90 after 90 for their biggest games. I think this is an improvement certainly from Anthem era and then Mass Effect Andromeda, a game that I was more of a defender of than most people. But this is better than that, certainly, I think. And, now we turn to the next Mass Effect, but BioWare may be over the hill a little bit, but I think this is still an enjoyable game that I don't want to speak for long-term Dragon Age fans, but at least from the reviews I'm reading, a lot of really big Dragon Age fans do like this game, and some are saying it is worth the 10-year wait. I'm reporting as someone who did not like the game and was not really caring about the return that much and was maybe just going to play out of curiosity. I liked it. I was not really expecting to like it as much as I did. I am looking forward to talking more about it in the future once we can get into spoilers. There is about to be a very annoying internet discourse about one of the plot lines specifically that, even though I was playing, I'm like, this is going to be so annoying on the internet. So just brace for that among, what positivity you might be seeing right now. Very curious to hear what everyone thinks about it when they boot it up. Maybe I'll circle back around to it when it's released in, a couple days, 3 days, something like that. Because it's a big game, 65 hours, there's a lot to talk about. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.